G'day folks, welcome to this unboxing of Skies Above Britain. This is the sequel to Skies Above the Reich. This is a game designed by Jerry White and Gina Willis and was published by GMT Games in 2022. It has just arrived today, so I thought I'd crack it open and have a look what's inside. Jerry White in particular, lead design here, has really hit the field lately. Atlantic Chase, the Doolittle Raid, Enemy Coast Ahead, and Enemy Coast Ahead, the Dam Busters. Yeah, some really good solitaire-oriented designs. So this is, as I said, the sequel to Skies Above the Reich, but from what I understand, I haven't played Skies Above the Reich, but from what I understand, he has really, or the team, Gina Willis and Jerry, have really tweaked the system to reflect the peculiarities of air combat over Britain in contrast to air combat over the Reich in the prequel to this. So you can see it's a deep box here, very heavy. I'm anticipating a lot of cardboard charts and goodies in here. You can see really nice back cover. It's a one-player system, 2+ hours, level 5 complexity with a very high solitaire suitability. A long list of game contents. You can see here game credits with box cover illustration by Antonis Carides. Let's crack it open and have a look. Okay, so we start with what looks like optional rules, and I don't know anything about this. I don't know what the optional rules are. Confirmed kills, weave, random events, graduated replacements, moved dogfight markers, break, an RAF tie-in guide. Okay, so I'm a huge fan, and I've played a lot of John Butterfield's RAF. So it looks like you can tie this in with the gameplay of RAF, which has seen several iterations. I have the old Decision Games version from 2009. There's since been some revised versions of that published by Decision Games, so I've got the old box cover. But yeah, you can see here, it looks like you can tie this in. RAF Lion scenarios, that could be very interesting. Yeah, okay, so we move on to what we have here. Special cases delayed. Oh, this is special cases from the tie-in. So it's quite a lot of rules for tying that in. Historical pilot rosters. That's brilliant. So you can name your own pilots or go with the historical rosters of the squadrons and sections, designers' notes, and bibliography there. And then random events tables on the back of that. That's the optionals book. We then have the situation manual, and this is quite thick. This is, if I can get page number, 51 pages of scenarios. 4 campaigns, link campaigns, various smaller scenarios, a lot of depth in this. You can see that very nice illustrations, colour illustrations. Scenario 3 on their tail, scenario 4, RF Vantage, Luftwaffe Advantage, and then the bomber scenarios, lame duck, finishing the job, a full basket, and some intercept scenarios. Oh, sorry, tally ho there, scenario 9, scenario 10, no escort, scenario 11, escort. You can see there's a lot here. I'll try to flick through these a bit quickly. Scenario 11 example, patrol example. And then the campaigns. So details on chapters, patrols, pilots, fighters, campaign start and length with the squadron log sheet detail. Chapter 1, skirmishing over the Channel, 10th of July to the 10th of August 1940. Chapter 2, the hardest days, 11th of August to the 18th of August 1940. And Chapter 3, finest hour, from the 19th of August to the 6th of September 1940. Finally leading into the ebb of battle, from the 7th of September to the 1st of October 1940. So that is the sort of situation manual / scenarios campaigns. We're then to the rulebook, and it is quite a hefty rulebook. it is 62 pages long, 63 pages long, including the index. But I will point out that, as with Jerry White's design, this is very well illustrated. It kind of guides you through the game progressively. So you start with the dogfight cycle. It teaches you what a dogfight is, how it works, all the event text that you need to be concerned about, how the advantage cards works. A lot of symbology used in this game, and I'm sure I'll see in a moment a summary of the symbols used on these advantage cards and the dogfight cards, which you can see here. So, look, I'll get to it in just a moment, but basically you've got the dogfights are kind of the core of the game, where you'll lay out your squadrons and sections on. I'll probably skip straight past it here, the squadron display here, and you'll have enemy forces coming sort of at you from in front or from behind, as you can see here. So a head-on fight or a tailed fight, and you'll draw. You'll figure out who has the advantage. You'll draw dogfight cards based on that, and you resolve the effects. So a lot of that is out of your control, but you're making decisions. You're making a lot of little decisions along the way, in terms of your rostering, who you're sending up, and what you're doing in terms of the broader manoeuvring during sort of the setup to a fight. And then the dogfight happens, and often you're limited in what you can do here, but it's a reflection of the setup for the fight. So a lot of your decision making takes place in the setup to that. You can see some more detail on the dogfight examples there, hit checks and so forth. Here's information on the bomber cycle, and you'll see here the sort of broader illustration of the bomber formation, and your squadrons will come at this bomber formation, and they can sort of, what's it called, move around. I can't remember the name used, but move around there to try to get into a better position. You're making decisions about sort of altitude, where to attack. You can see here 2 squadrons. You might use one squadron to engage the air cover, another to engage the bombers, things like this. Various details. So whenever you try to move around, you need to make, there's a lot of checks to be made when you're moving around. Often your actions have a risk of engaging enemy escorts, and you'll often roll on these type of tables. So this is the escort suppression table, but there's also a circle table over here. I'm not sure what the table is, but things like that, where you're making a move and you're rolling to check if your move is in effect intercepted by the enemy escorts. So you're kind of making a risk. Do you try to get into a better position? Do you try to soak off the enemy escorts, or do you just dive at it? So a lot of rules there just for getting into combat. Raid vector sequence. This is the raid track, and on this track you'll have channel escorts. So you can have your fighters, some of your individual fighters can break off from their squadrons and sections. They can be intercepted by BF-109s on channel patrol. A lot of details here. So I don't know, as I said, I don't know how to play this game, but I've got a sense of how it plays from a previous glance at some of this information. Details on returning to base, channel recovery, pilots telling points, pilot experience, things like this. Icon results. So as I said, much of the game relies on the appearance of various icons printed on cards and markers drawn randomly. Here's a detailed summary of those icons and what they do. And there's a lot of effects. So just going through some of these: damage, catastrophic effects. You've got collision chance, disruption, distress, dorsal gunner, fuel, hit, a green pilot hit, jammed gun, somebody falling loose from their formation, green pilot loose, lost contact, low ammo, reduction, reinforcements, a lot of different possible outcomes. more return fire effects, and then the nice index at the end. And this is a very nice, thick, glossy rulebook. We have here the stickers to apply to the blocks, which I'm sure are in here somewhere. Let me pull these out. So here we see the blocks, which we'll use with those stickers. We have three, not quite, these aren't exactly decks, there's multiple decks in here. You've got various advantage cards, and they will, depending on who has the advantage, you'll draw for those. They're very smaller decks for various events that happen throughout the course of the game. Pilot rosters, which I will photocopy. There are two of those. What do we have here? This is a summary of the sequence of play, which is nice. And on the reverse side, a summary of those various icon effects. You can see just how many there are, how many different things can happen during a dogfight, through manoeuvring, through winning the advantage, and the like. So it's a double-sided, roughly A3 size sheet. 2 D10 dice in the box. Then we have just a summary of various effects, different pilot skills, ace skills, sequence for the raid vector, return to base sequence, and then the interception sequence. So a lot of this summarised. This is a very detailed rulebook, but the core rules are summarised on these charts. Here we have formation intercepting bombers. So rolling to see, I guess, what happens. So if you're trailing, apply high. I don't really understand fully how this works, but you're rolling to see what happens if you attempt to intercept. If you succeed, roll high, equal to or higher than the target number, you intercept bombers without interference from the escort. If you roll lower, you fail, and the escorts intercept your fighters. If there's no escort and visibility is cloud, the formation loses sight of the bomber formation. It's now lost contact. So various things can happen based on those broader circumstances. Here are the other charts. So intercepting escort if you're nose, flank, tail, trailing, cruise checks. So as I said, these are the dice rolls. You're taking these, making these choices, taking these risks to see what happens. Okay, so that's quite a few charts there. The circle display, which I don't really know much about, I kind of skipped this section in my sort of preview of the rules. I did see it in the rulebook just then. Here we go. We have some more, a whole pad of pilot rosters, which is good. You may have noticed, I think these are the historical pilot rosters. The names are already sort of pre-filled on both of those. So here's a full pad of pilot rosters. Here we have 2 counter sheets. So there's 1 and there's 2. For the counter sheets, it shows enemy escorts and individual aircraft and various effects. Here are all my pilots and their levels of experience and effects on them as well, things like damage and the like. And these are double-sided, so there's the reverse side and the reverse side again, showing low ammo, no ammo, jammed, and so forth. Then, this is a mounted mini board. It's solid, sturdy. It shows the squadron display. So this is where a lot of the action happens. This is double-sided. I don't know what the difference is. Advanced squadron display and the basic squadron display. So you'll put your squadrons, sections, pilots here. They will be confronted with German aircraft coming typically from the front or the rear. And you'll use this to sort of resolve the dogfights. Then, this is I think it's a single-sided, quite large interception map. And this is where your planning takes place. And you can see, this is wonderful, a lot of the charts are printed on and around this. So you've got the bomber formation here, they'll have their escorts, and you'll come in from a particular angle and you can, I've forgotten the name of the phrase used, you can maneuver, but it's not called maneuver, it's called something else. Maneuver around to a different position. And every time you attempt to do that, there's a risk that you can be intercepted by these escorts. So here's the raid track. Look, there's a lot going on here, and I do need to wrap my head around it. But yeah, look, it looks amazing. Before I forget, 2 more bomber tiles over here. You've got Henkels, Junkers, Dorniers, and Stukers. And they're just little cards that pop out. And finally, before I forget this, I've already gone through that. That's the summary sheet. So again, this is a mounted map. Looks very cool. So a lot of table space, a big footprint for this one. And you're kind of shifting between the interception map and your squadron display. You've got the sequence of play set out, a lot of different tables and charts and summaries, and your pilot register roster, all these things going on. It's a narrative sort of driven game, but it's quite a heavy narrative driven game. So I was talking about narrative games just last week, and this is certainly on the I don't want to say heavy end of the spectrum, because it's not a complex game, but there's a lot going on, and you're making a lot of mini decisions along the way that shape your setup for dogfights. The dogfights themselves kind of run through advantage draws and dogfight draws, which is largely out of your control. But if you've set everything up well, you've got good pilots in a good position, you are shaping yourself up for a good outcome in that combat. You can say much the same about RAF, John Butterfield's RAF. If you place your squadrons intercepting in the right areas in sufficient numbers, you're setting yourself up well for a good outcome. You can say much the same about skies over the Reich and skies above Britain. Much of what you're doing here is planning for the setup for a successful dogfight, and you hope that you've got the right components, the right pilots in the right positions to support the best case outcome. So yes, there you go, folks. It looks brilliant, typical solid GMT production quality. These are some of the symbols on those cards that I was talking about. Yep, not much of this makes sense to me at the moment, but you've got things like low ammo hits, various maneuvers to consider. Look forward to sinking my teeth into this. So folks, that is Jerry White and Gina Willis's Skies Above Britain. Just released from GMT Games, shipping now for those who P500'd it, which I did. And yeah, looking forward to getting to it. Thanks folks, and take care.